Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored Never Boring. Recently, Archon Studio have dropped a little bit of information about the Wave 4 expansions for one of my favourite games, Masters of the Universe Battleground. Up until now, they have given us 2 waves of new recruits for the existing forces, the Masters of the Universe and the Evil Warriors, and 1 wave that introduced a new setting for battles, with a neutral monster for use in special scenarios, and a way to play the game solo. I've already covered all of that on the channel in great detail, and so far I have been very impressed with almost everything Archon have been doing with the game. Now they are teasing Wave 4, and this is something different altogether, because they are introducing a brand new faction, the Evil Horde. I'm pretty excited about this, and will obviously be pre-ordering as soon as I can. When it hits my doormat, you can expect a very thorough unboxing with my thoughts on everything included, but for now I thought I would breeze through some of the information we have and talk about what's interesting to me. First, I have to say, while I am excited to see the Evil Horde arriving, I probably would have liked a few more characters from the 2 original factions first. I am sure they will revisit those factions, and I know that everyone has their favourite characters, but for me, there are some notable gaps in the existing lineup that I would have liked filled. Of course, I absolutely understand the need for a skirmish game like this to introduce new factions. You need to give players those options, and I'm sure the Snake Men characters aren't going to be too far away either. Increasing the breadth of faction options as well as the depth of the options within those factions is essential for a skirmish game's survival, so yeah, it all makes perfect sense. And as I'm keen to collect everything anyway, I'm not losing too much sleep over it. So what are we getting in this expansion anyway? Well, I think the most interesting thing to note is that this expansion is going to include 8 miniatures. The original factions started with 5 models each, but the Horde is intending to live up to its name by including some minion type creatures. The initial lineup will comprise Hordak, Catra, Grizzlor, Shadow Weaver, and then 2 Horde Troopers and 2 Horde Wraiths. When I'm playing skirmish games, I love having all unique characters, but I have said previously, I thought it would be interesting to incorporate some minion level characters such as Palace Guards for the Masters of the Universe, or some Shadow Beasts or Hover Robots for the Evil Warriors. So I'm happy to see that idea being introduced here. We are getting some expendable cheap units to martyr to the cause. I am okay with the initial selection of characters. Personally, my favourites were always Hordak, Grizzlor, Mantenna, Leech and Modulok, plus the Horde Troopers, so it's 50% of my favourites. Not too bad. I do hope the other 3 turn up down the line though. This expansion is also going to include some new terrain, 4 new trees, plus new weapons and items. I really like how each new expansion has also included these things, although I am sure some people who are only interested in specific factions aren't so keen. They will probably feel like they have to buy characters they don't want to get the new equipment and terrain that they do want. I totally understand that stance, and I have felt similarly in the past with other games. But I do think it adds so much to each new expansion to have those extra options, and it works well for anyone like me who is intending to collect everything anyway. It is interesting to note that they have pointed out many of the new cards are specifically designed to work with the Evil Horde's playstyle, but that doesn't mean there won't be useful stuff for every faction looking to try out some new strategies. Finally, the expansion will include some new scenarios. I am very pleased to see that while they have the matched play tournament style scenarios, they are also including more of the advanced scenarios we saw in the pre-Turnier expansion. These scenarios have more special rules and feel more narrative. Archon Studio have hinted one of the scenarios will include facing an endless horde of approaching enemies. That's the kind of stuff I like. Archon Studio have also shared some information regarding how the new characters work and how the Horde will play. There are some really interesting synergies on display. For example, the Horde have access to abilities that let them draw more fate cards and then take discarded fate cards and return them to the deck. This will give them the extra options to be able to maneuver a much larger force than the other factions are fielding. There are some really exciting ways to make use of the minion type characters too, as they have special abilities that trigger when they are destroyed, which plays into the fact that they are expendable warriors. The Horde Troopers let you retrieve discarded fate cards, while the destroyed Horde Wraith switches places with any ally, making it possible to launch a surprise attack on any hero who takes one down in melee. Hordak also has an ability that sees him gaining in strength and power each time an ally is knocked out, while Grizzlor becomes enraged and gets a free interruption when he sees an ally fall. I will obviously look into all of the special abilities in much more detail when the expansion comes out, but at first blush, all of these skills sound really interesting. I love the idea of being able to cycle cards back into the deck to overwhelm opponents with weight of numbers, and having disposable allies who are designed to fail so that your mainline characters become empowered. My one concern is if this playstyle makes taking minions a prerequisite for success. I am hoping that a horde force comprising only named characters is just as viable as a force running a group of minions. It would be a shame if the faction was railroaded into one particular style of play, but only time will tell in that regard, and when it comes to time, we are almost out for this video. But before I go, I did just want to show you this. This absolutely beautiful book was a Christmas present from my wife and instantly became my favourite book ever. This is the Masters of the Universe Minicomics Collection, and it contains all of the old mini-comics that came out with the He-Man toys, plus stacks of other content. When I opened this for the first time, I was immediately teleported back to when I was a kid and would pore over the mini-comics for hours. I almost welled up, and I was shocked by how much of them I could recall so vividly. I was already reading the next panel of each story before I turned the page. It was all so crystal clear, even after so long. And it's a testament to the quality of those mini-comics that not only could I remember them so well, but that they have also stood the test of time, and I could enjoy them as stories in their own right as an adult. And really, this is just so fabulously presented, with lots of great additional content, including interviews with some of the big names that worked on the mini-comics and cartoons. I will say, sometimes it isn't always good to see how the sausage is made. For example, it's slightly upsetting to read the interview with Gary Cohn and discover he didn't even like He-Man and only worked for the paychecks, and is actually disappointed that this is the work people will most likely remember him for. I think as a fan, you know the realities of how these sorts of franchises operate, with guns for hire churning out content they don't consider art, but you try not to think about it, and it's a little off-putting when creators fail to see the beauty and joy they have brought into the world and provided for others. It feels like it's undermining something that's so important to you, and perhaps shining too bright a light on nostalgia by forcing you to confront realities that you never would have considered as a child. Nevertheless, the interviews are insightful and the reproductions of the comics are glorious. It has everything from the 80s and 90s He-Man lines, unreleased stories, and more. If you're a fan of Masters of the Universe, it's well worth picking up. And if you're playing Battleground, it's just a great companion piece to help you come up with narrative ideas for games, or just to give you more insight into any characters you might not know so well. In the UK, you can pick this up for around £30. It's worth every penny. But that's it from me for now. Thank you to those who have joined the Always Bored Never Boring Members Club, and thank you to everyone for taking the time to listen to me today. If you liked the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so, and hopefully, I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone, bye bye.